Okay, today we'll be discussing the future of work, and we are all welcome to the Break into Tech session of this is the day 6 of the Lagos Startup Week. It's been a journey for us since Monday. We've had amazing downtown in terms of having Twitter spaces, virtual sessions, to Tuesday to Wednesday where we did the innovation tour, visiting hotspots across the city. To Thursday where we had the first physical session here, up or down to Friday, and today is dedicated to those that are, looking to break into tech, and also perhaps also establish more grounds in terms of their tech career. So the very first panel session today that I'll be moderating is called "The Future of Work," and on a panel discussion. Please welcome on stage Abiola Showemimo, Paystack HR business partner. A round of applause, please. Joining me also on stage is Chinaza Udoka Dika, TeamApt, Head of People and Operation. A round of applause, please. Okay. I think we could start this session by, first of all, Abiola, could you just give us a little bit of background of yourself and how you've been able to establish your career in tech?
Okay, thanks a lot for the invitation, and good morning, everyone. My name is Abiola Showemimo. My role at Paystack is HR business partner. How did I get into tech? I guess I fell into tech. I studied economics at the Lagos State University, LASU. Nothing fancy, just regular, going to school and, just normal background. When I finished school, I wasn't really sure of what I wanted to do. I had some writing and blogging jobs here and there, but I knew that wasn't what I wanted to do. And then luckily I found myself in a tech company working as a business analyst. And that was how I got into tech. And that's what I mean by, I just fell into it. It wasn't like a very, very conscious decision or very intentional decision to particularly go into tech. I just applied for a job. I got it into a tech company. It was interesting. And then somewhere down the line, I pivoted into people operations. And that's what I basically do today.
Oh, thank you very much. It's a similar experience with so many other people who find themselves in tech, right? So Chinaza, could you give me a little background of yourself?
Okay. Good morning, everyone. I have a similar story. I didn't come into the working market looking to go into tech. I started working with TeamApt in 2016, and I started as a project manager. At that time, we were only about 10. I studied mathematics in UNN, so it was just an interesting journey. I found project management interesting, and I decided to take up the opportunity. So as TeamApt grew, also I was the only lady for the first 3 years of TeamApt as we continued growing. Somehow, I got saddled with many of the admin, people operation duties, and as we started to put more structure, I took on the role fully as the head of people operations, in which I still operate today. So that's my journey in HR.
Thank you very much. So in the audience today, we have people that are, talking of Paystack, talking of TeamApt, right? Some of them are perhaps have different backgrounds and are sort of finding it difficult, right? To see, some have probably also applied to either a Paystack or a TeamApt, and perhaps are sort of trying to figure out as to what the best approach would be in terms of getting to organizations such as yours. So, looking at Paystack's, workplace culture, and in terms of your standards, in terms of hiring, right? What are the qualities you look out for when you're looking to hiring specific talent itself?
Okay, so maybe let's start with the culture fit aspects. When hiring, not just Paystack, I think most companies like to hire people, they like to look for people that are culture fit, right? And what does culture fit means? Organizations have different cultures. They're looking for people that are in alignment with their culture. So I'll take, for example, at Paystack, one of our values is communication, and not just communication, clear communication. So when we're hiring, aside from looking out for technical capabilities, we also look out for culture fit, and we test for communication, right? Paystack is a tech company, but then we have different people that are not engineers, that are not designers. We have people that are not coding, right, that work at Paystack. And we need people that would be able to communicate, right, to anyone at any level in such a manner that they would understand, right? So how do we test for communication? I don't know you. The panel do not know you, but we want to get to understand you. So we ask you lots of questions. We want to see how you introduce yourself, right? The panel does not really know anything about you except for the CV or maybe the cover letter that you've sent. So how do you introduce yourself? Do you just do a one-liner of, hi, my name is Abiola, I work at Paystack? No. What else is there about you? How do you express yourself? Do you express simple concepts with too much ambiguous words? How easy is it to understand you, understand your kind of person? So there are different ways in which we test for culture fit. So I already gave the example of communication. One of our values says communicate clearly. As someone that's interviewing, how well do you communicate? Right? One of our values says transparency. How transparent can you be about the things, about your experience? Are you just coming to talk about the positive aspects? Yes, we all have the positive things about our experiences. And that's what we want to sell to interviewers, which is perfect. But how vulnerable can you be about the mistakes you've made at work? Right? So if you're applying to any company, you need to try to familiarize yourself with what their culture is, and ask yourself if you're in alignment with the culture of that company before you even try to apply, right? So, several questions just to drill down to the kind of things that we're looking out for, which is essentially our culture.
Okay, thank you. Chinaza, how do you ensure your new recruits align with the culture within? What are the steps, processes, or summary in terms of how, at TeamApt, you ensure that your new recruits or those you're looking to hire from the pool of applications, are able to adapt to the culture of the organization itself?
Okay, thank you. So, just taking a leaf from her book, a lot of the things revolve around some of our values. For instance, I'll take technical depth, for instance. That's one of our core values at TeamApt. Technical depth can exhibit itself just in regular conversation. Technical depth means that you don't just take things at face value. You're able to understand the foundations of exactly what you're talking about so that you can express yourself properly when talking about that concept. So at every stage of the interview, these are some of the things that we look out for. If a question is posed to you, you don't just say something just because. You need to think about it clearly. You need to put it in the context in which the question is being asked, and with clarity, put your answer forward. So that's just an example of how we look out for one of our values, which is technical depth in the interview process. Another one is curiosity. So for instance, in an interview setting, you're asked a question. Maybe you don't know the answer. You are allowed to ask questions to get more context, to get clarity on exactly what question is being asked to you so that you can give a proper answer. A lot of the other things also exhibit themselves, things like passion. So some people just work because they need to get some money to, make things work, especially in today's climate in Nigeria. But we try to look out for people that actually enjoy what they do. And you will agree with me that if you're talking with somebody that's passionate about his work or his art or his craft or his or her craft rather, you will get that the person is not just responding. There's a different energy that comes with someone who is passionate about his or her job. So these are some of the ways we look out for some of the values that make up our culture in the interview process.
Okay. In terms of technical roles, right? Some school of thought believe that, HR itself just looks at soft skills, right? What's your process internally when it comes to recruiting technical talent and non-technical talent?
Okay, myself?
Yeah, you can start.
For TeamApt, what happens is, especially for technical roles, the first step is a technical test, and that can take different forms. For engineers, it's most likely a coding challenge, an algorithm challenge, whatever it is, before we even get to have a conversation with you. So I mentioned earlier that technical depth is one of our major points for letting people in. If you look at the people we have in TeamApt, you have lots of spectacular people that are really good at what they do. So the first stage is a technical test in which we test what you can do. Then we go to a panel discussion. So that panel discussion is like a morph of the soft skills and the technical skills. You talk to some leaders in TeamApt, and they discuss with you based on the role that you're applying for. If it's a quality assurance engineer, if it's a software front end, whatever it is, they discuss with you. And in that space, they're also able to gauge some of the soft skills that we're talking about before you even come to HR. So it's not just about your soft skills per se. The technical skills also matter, at least in TeamApt.
Okay. Abiola, would you like to?
Yeah, very similar to TeamApt's process. We test for technical skills. If it's an engineering role, you do like different technical tests. If it's a non-engineering role, we also, for example, if it's a finance role, you do like some tests that are related to the role before the panel interview. And during the panel interview, we still go ahead to test for your technical abilities, test for soft skills, test for culture fit.
Okay. Before we throw out questions like from the audience, right, for anyone who perhaps has any question to ask, I'm sure they're probably moving the mic around. We could take roughly about 3 questions because the goal is to, get to meet them firsthand and ask, how you can really break into tech. I'll say, what advice would you have for job seekers, right? Or perhaps people who have, so there are 2 sets of people here, right? One, I have 5 years banking experience, right? But I'm looking to break into tech. That's person 1, right? Perhaps I'm a lawyer, right? I've studied law and I'm looking to break into tech, right? What advice would you give to such individual? Because some of the soft skills the person has had, prior in terms of experience as a lawyer, could also be relevant when it comes to perhaps the role of product management or any other. So over to you, Chinaza. What advice would you have for individuals who have extensive experience in another industry, or perhaps a non-tech industry, right, or a traditional industry that are looking to transition into tech itself?
Okay, so tech is, at least in this day can take many forms. You mentioned the lawyer. We
Yeah.
do have lawyers in TeamApt, and um, what they do is not necessarily tech as people would know it, but it's related to that. So I'd like to ask, do you mean the generally accepted engineering roles? Is that what you're referring to as tech?
What I mean generally, well, when you talk of law, using law as a background itself, right? Not all lawyers have had the opportunity to work in tech, because when it comes to tech, in terms of evaluation, it's totally different from the context of the normal traditional business itself.
Okay, got it. So you need to position yourself properly. Of course, by the time you come to any interview table at any tech company, the questions that are going to be posed to you are not necessarily from only what you know from your previous experience. What we're looking for is what can you bring to the table? What knowledge do you have? Even though it's not practiced, even though you don't necessarily have first-hand experience, there needs to be some type of knowledge of what you can bring to the table in whatever field you're entering into in the tech sphere. So let's take let me take another role, for instance.
Accounting?
Accounting, yes. So the standards that are acceptable in accounting, finance, whatever, in some tech companies are different from what you will find in some other companies per se, although they are internationally accepted standards. But you need to be able to relate when tech terms or when things within the tech context are thrown towards you. So in the bank, maybe as a banker, as a finance analyst or whatever, what you're used to is different from what the tech people are used to. So let's take reconciliation, for instance. I don't know whether anybody would have any context on what reconciliation is. From the aspects of the bank is different from what the tech companies put forward. For instance, we're helping you manage your money and all that. The bank is keeping it. They're keeping track of all the monies that come in and go out. But let's say the app is what's is from the app you're spending that money. So the context in which the finance person in the tech world is working is different from the context in which the finance person in the bank world is working. You need to have both contexts to be able to tie it together. That's where you can bring more value to the table. So coming from a different background entirely can actually be a plus for you when transitioning into tech. So, I mean, I think you can relate that to almost any other industry that you can think about.
Okay, thank you very much. So I'm trying to make it as rudimentary as possible. So in terms of tech companies comes in all shapes and sizes, some in early stage, some in growth stage, right? Over to Abiola. What sort of evaluation would you advise a job seeker, right? Or an intern, or just any individual looking to work in any tech company? How do you think they should assess, generally speaking, right? Just assess companies, right? Or startups before applying into any of the startups itself?
I'd say you ask yourself, what are the things that motivates you as a person, right? Is it money that's motivating you? Then you probably need to look for a company that would be able to pay you as much as you want to. Do you want to learn? Are you seeking knowledge, right? You probably need to look for a company where you would be able to learn as much as you want to learn. What stage are you in your career? Are you an entry-level person? Did you just finish from school and you're just looking for a place to intern or to learn? I'd say at that stage, don't look out for money, right? Look out to building experiences in different aspects. So look out for a company where you can learn in a particular field, in the field that you're really interested in. Also, part of the things that motivates you as an individual, what are your personal beliefs? Like I said, culture fit. Being a culture fit in a company is very, very important, right? What companies can you identify that aligns with your personal belief, right? What companies can you align yourself with in terms of being a culture fit. So I think these are the things that you need to try to find out from different companies. And like you said, there are companies at different stages. And it also has to do with the stage that you are in your career and what motivates you. Try to find an alignment in all of these things, and I think you'd be able to find a company that best works for you.
Okay. Are there any questions from the audience? Okay. Questions? Someone just raised his hand.
Hello, good morning.
Hi.
My name is Yusuf, so I'm customer support specialist at Bolt. I like the answer you give regarding learning and also gaining experience.
Can you speak up, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Right. So I like the answer you give regarding learning and gaining experience also. But the problem now is that because there are a lot of platforms now where you can go online, especially Nigerian tech companies, edutech companies, whereby you can go online and learn all of these tech skills. Where do you draw the line between learning industry-based skills, building portfolios, doing projects, and tying it down to, okay, let me just go and get industry-based learning. If it is internship, I should go and get internship. Or if it's, take for example, if you want to pivot now from CS now, and you want to go into probably developing or web development or app development, for instance now, where do you draw the line between let me go and do a Coursera course or let me just go and pay these people to teach me this course? And when do you determine when you should go for the internship or apply for the internship? Thank you.
I don't think you should draw the line. I think all of these things can happen in parallel. So with the example that you gave, you want to pivot from customer success to maybe being able to code. I think you can do courses online. You can take Coursera courses, any course online that would help you upskill personally. And at the same time, while gaining all of that, you can look out for internship opportunities. Because even as an intern, you need to be able to bring something to the table. So I feel like all of the other sources of knowledge that you're going to explore would actually prepare you for being a good intern, if that's clear.
Okay. Someone else has a question before we wrap up this panel.
Good morning.
Okay.
Over here. My name is Somto, and my question is as regards the future of work. So you mentioned Coursera. I myself, I did a Google UX design course on Coursera. So, but the job ads I've been seeing, yeah, even when you see entry-level roles, they'll still be asking you for 2 years experience. So that's been my biggest challenge, especially navigating these texts. I'm coming from project management. So trying to get entry-level roles as a UX designer, even though I understand a lot of the concepts, you know, I think project management made me to be that detailed. And then I can use some of those soft skills. This is also applicable in the UX, but it's just your word of mouth. And then you're applying for an entry-level role and they're asking you for 2 years experience in the UX design world. How does that work?
Okay, so I think you should apply anyway. What companies do, because experience sometimes can be overrated, but as long as you understand the concepts, right, and you say you're a good UX designer, apply anyway. It's left for whoever's doing that shortlisting to take a look at your profile. Of course, your portfolio would probably be attached to that. See some of the things that you've done and decide whether or not to reach out to you. So don't let some of those things deter you from pushing for some of those opportunities. So yes, we put sometimes 2 to 5 years. Sometimes we do that, but apply anyway. As long as you know what you're doing.
Okay, just to also add to that, I'm a UX designer myself, right? And there are different levels when it comes to recruitment. So first level, from the technical side, is you have your portfolio and your case studies, right? That's first level. The second level is you have a real-life case project, right? Perhaps you've done a UX project that is on Google Play or Google Store, right? That's a different level. Perhaps you've had the opportunity working for a unicorn or someone who has been acquired, right? That's a different level because of, you already you have shown experience working in any, blue chip startup, right? And from the technical side of things, either as a technical manager, those are the levels in which you use to what? Sift out or filter out candidates itself, right? And how can you get on a job or if you don't even have any sort of working experience? Is one, by perhaps volunteering, on volunteering to, or interning with any sort of company. There are lots of internship opportunities all across, right? You could intern, irrespective of your 5 years project management experience, intern in a company to get just that real life portfolio, moving you from the level of just case studies or a Coursera course. Are we all following? Thank you very much. Are there any other questions before we call it a day?
My name is Elizabeth, Chief of Staff Audience. I have two questions, and I'll just try to bring both together. So there is this myth, I don't know if it's true, coming from where his question stopped. There's this thing they say, you see employers asking some kind of questions from interns, people who want to come in as interns. So, and I've realized that a lot of people have to lie and add more to their experience, more than what they have, because they will say, oh, the company is just saying intern. They need someone with experience just to pay them little. I don't know how true that is, but I've heard a lot of people say that. And it has become something for people applying for internship roles to lie about their experiences. That's one. I want to know if it's a myth or from your own perspective. Any of you can answer the question. And secondly, I also have this issue with roles limiting you, like the role your job gave you, your company gave you. For example, my role is chief of staff, and someone was like, why don't you say head of or lead of operations and people and operations? And I'm like, how do I do that? Is it true that the role you are given in your company, even though you are doing the same thing as the other people, having other roles like that sound popular, would it limit you when you look for jobs? So the first question is it true that companies put out internship opportunities but are looking for people with experience? Secondly, question is, do roles limit you when you're looking for job opportunities?
Maybe I should start with the second, and I'll leave the first for Chinaza to answer. I think that whatever role, whatever your job title is, should definitely align with your day-to-day responsibilities. So maybe you have to do something that's called an org design. Org design means just personally for you, what do you do? Right, aside from your title that says chief of staff, what is your day-to-day? What are your responsibilities? What are the expectations that a company has of you? That is what would make you actually define what your real job title is. And yes, to your point, I think that if your job says chief of staff and maybe you're functioning in the capacity of maybe an operations lead or a people kind of role, it's definitely going to limit you when it comes to seeking other opportunities outside. So you need to maybe do a self-assessment. What is my day-to-day? What are my expectations? What are the things within my scope? And how will I define all of this? Or how will I attach an appropriate title to all of the things that are within my scope and are my responsibilities.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, to attend to the first question, you're saying some companies put out openings for interns, requiring experience under the guise of paying them very little.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't necessarily speak for all companies, but I think the point is, even as an intern, not necessarily experience, but some type of base knowledge. You need to have something that we can work with when you come in. So for instance, in TeamApt, when we take, I think in March, we take female interns in. And the criteria is you must have done some type of course, some type of engineering work by yourself. You don't necessarily need to have worked in a company. You don't have to have formal experience. But what personal work have you done? How have you, given yourself a foundation that we can build on? You will agree with me that it's different working with somebody that understands the principles of software engineering as opposed to somebody that has no idea of it at all. So it's give us something we can work with, and then we will work with you, pay you as much as we can until we think you're okay to become a full staff and pay you appropriately. So I can only speak for TeamApt. I don't think I can speak for all the other people that do what they do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions before we call it the end of the panel? Okay.
Yeah, good morning. I'm Mohammed. My question was I would like to know what HR personnel look out for when it comes to portfolio evaluation. Like, do you guys look out for, let's say now, if someone is applying to Paystack, if he has not worked on, even if it's passion projects, if he has not worked on passion projects that has to do with the fintech aspect of the industry, would the person have like higher hand in, let's say, like getting hired for the job? Or it's because sometimes when someone works on his portfolio, you get to like work on different things when you're just starting out. So do you need to tailor your should I say your work that you're showcasing on your portfolio to the niche you are trying to apply for, or you can just build your experience around?
So I would say it's a little bit of both, in the sense that when we hire at Paystack, aside from looking out from your technical strengths and what you've done in that line. So take, for example, we're hiring for maybe a finance role, right? We're definitely looking out for your technical experience, what you've done in that line. Maybe it's a tax role, how you've handled tax in the past, what you've done. We also ask questions that lead to passion projects. It may not have anything to do with tax, but trust me, whatever you've done outside of finance or your core responsibilities that you tag as a passion project will definitely add to your ratings in interview processes, because it just shows that you're someone that's a curious person. You're someone that's hardworking. You're someone that doesn't necessarily rely on or stay on one path, but is very, very curious enough to dive into something else, to be part of different projects, to do different things. So you don't necessarily have to tailor your CV or your experience to only the thing you're applying for. It can be a combination of both, and it can definitely give you an upper hand.
Okay, I think we can call it a day then. Any last words from you, Chinaza? Or any last? Okay, there's still a question. Okay, there's a question.
Okay, good afternoon. So I have just two short questions. The first one is, I've heard about portfolios, but I'd like to know what platforms I can use to create a portfolio. Because what's in my head now, it's like a PowerPoint document that just shows pictures of what I've done. So I'd like you to clarify what exactly you mean by portfolio. Do you mean like a link to a website that would showcase what I have done before? So that's the first one. My second question is, what value? So now, I'm coming from the company's perspective, would a person who has worked in banking and consulting bring to a tech firm? So the thing is, I have my ideas of what I think from that background I can bring. So one of them would be product management, maybe because I'm an ideas person. But I think my presumptions still need to be grounded in reality. So like as a tech recruiting firm, what value do you think a person who has worked in the banking industry and consulting industry would bring to a tech firm so that can help us match those things? So those are the two questions: portfolios and then matching your value to the place you want to go to. Thank you.
Yes.
Okay. For the portfolio, I think there are different platforms, but the one I can think of off the top of my head is Behance. You can simply attach your Behance link on your CV, make it a PDF so that we can access it, and you can upload all the work that you've done on that platform. The other question was transitioning from a different industry entirely, practically how you can bring value to a tech company, right? Yeah. Okay, so there are so many angles to this. What exactly were you doing in the bank? What are you looking to come and do in the tech space? It's so vast that you need to be able to plug it in from the experience you currently have. So if you're doing marketing in the bank per se, the positioning of the bank is different from typically how tech companies would like to be positioned, you know. So at the core of it, you have marketing knowledge, but what's variant is the positioning. Tech companies typically want to be known as fun, vibrant, however we like to see ourselves. Banks, they want you to know that they're reliable, right? That your money is safe with them. So the mental work you're doing is shifting your mind, and like I said before, positioning yourself in a way such that you can maybe, as a case study, prefer how you would position the tech company in the marketing space. So your question is like very spot on, but I'm trying to say that there are so many aspects to it. What exactly were you doing in the bank? What are you trying to do in the tech space? How can you connect the two of them together? Do you get me? Thank you.
Yeah, just echoing what Chinaza has said. You need to be able to identify what you want to do in the tech company. If it's a continuation of the experience you've previously had in the bank or in the consulting space, you need to understand how you can bring that into the tech space. And if it's a new career path that you want to follow in the tech space, you need to identify that, try to build up yourself, upskill on it, and then look for opportunities that would support it.
Okay. I think we can call this an end. Thank you very much for our panelists. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any further questions, feel free to meet Paystack, also TeamApt at the exhibition area. A round of applause for our wonderful panelists.